Before the world had one story. Before Africa had borders. Before flags. Before maps. Her people told stories. Stories that explained the universe. Stories that explained how we came to existence. They asked one question. How did everything begin? Africa didn't answer with just one story. She gave many. And each one holds a secret about the world, about Africa, about Africans, and about us. And each answer revealed something deep about what it means to be human. Before the earth had a name, before the first tree breathed, before a single human heartbeat echoed across the world, there was only water, endless, boundless, unmoving. Above this silent expanse rode Olodumare, the unseen force older than time itself. Then, something stirred. Not an explosion. Not a battle. A decision. Creation would begin. Olodumare summoned Obatala, the gentle architect of forms, and gave him a task no being had ever carried before. Bring the world to life. From the heavens, Obatala began his descent. Step by step. On a chain of gold that seemed to fall forever into the unknown. Below him, no land. No direction. Only the whisper of dark waters waiting. In his grasp were objects that looked almost too simple to shape a universe. A pouch filled with sand. A lone hen. And power entrusted by the divine. When Obatala reached the great waters, time itself seemed to hold its breath. The sand fell first, disappearing into the deep. Then the hen was released. It touched the surface, scratched gently. Once. Twice. And then, a miracle so quiet it could have been missed. The waters began to retreat. Solid ground pushed upward from beneath the abyss. What started as a small patch grew wider, stronger, real. Land had been born. That sacred ground would be called Ili Ife. The place where the veil between heaven and earth first opened. The place many would come to remember as the birthplace of humanity. But hidden inside this ancient memory is a truth the Yoruba never forgot. Humans were not placed above creation. They were placed within it. Not as rulers, but as caretakers. Because the world was not made through force. It was made through trust. And from that very first moment, balance was the law of existence. Break that balance, and even creation itself can tremble. Before time was counted, before the earth carried footsteps, before the wind had a name, there was Chukwu, the great source, infinite, unseen, so vast that no human mind could fully grasp him. And from this unknowable presence, the universe emerged. But creation, to the Igbo, was never random. It was deliberate and ordered. Chukwu shaped the world and entrusted it to Allah, the earth goddess. She was more than soil and stone. She was the guardian of life, the keeper of fertility, the silent judge of morality. Nothing escaped her notice. Every promise, every injustice, every hidden wrongdoing pressed into the ground beneath human feet. Then came humanity, not created merely to exist, but to live by Ominola, the sacred natural law woven into the fabric of reality itself. To follow it was to live in harmony with the universe. To break it was to wound creation. The Igbo believes balance was not optional. It was survival. For when the order of the world is disturbed, the consequences do not whisper. They arrive. Among the Igbo, they say nothing truly disappears. Not a crime. Not a secret. Not even a thought buried deep within the heart. Because the earth remembers what humans try to forget. From divine chains that lowered the first land, to a watchful earth that remembered every human act. Africa's creation stories were never just about beginnings. They were about responsibility. And the deeper we journey, the more mysterious those beginnings become. Benin account of creation. In the beginning, the world was not chaos. It was waiting. Waiting for structure. Waiting for command. Waiting for a force strong enough to turn existence into order. Above all rode Osunobua, the supreme god, source of power, wisdom, and destiny. But a world cannot govern itself. So Osunobua sent his sons down from the heavens, not merely to create, but to organize, to assign meaning, to establish balance, to ensure that nothing existed without purpose. Yet among them rose one figure set apart from all others. The Oba. Not just a king, but a living bridge between heaven and earth. Where the divine spoke, he listened. Where the people faltered, he restored alignment. To the Edo people, the throne was never just a seat of power. It was sacred. Because the universe itself was believed to move through hierarchy. Not as a tool of control, but as a design for harmony. Every role mattered. Every voice had its place. Every action echoed beyond the visible world. And so they believed. When leadership is just, creation remains in balance. But when the throne is corrupted, it is not only a kingdom that trembles. Even the universe begins to shift. For when the one meant to stand between heaven and earth loses his way, who, then, holds the world together? This is the Hausa account of creation. Before the first sunrise, before the winds learned to move, before humanity opened its eyes to the world, there was Ubanjiji, the one God, eternal, absolute, the voice behind all that would ever exist. And then, without struggle, without conflict, he spoke. With a single divine command, the silence shattered. The sky stretched wide. The land found its shape. Rivers began their endless journeys. Animals stirred. And humanity stepped into a world already prepared. Nothing was accidental. Nothing wandered without direction. Every mountain, every creature, every life was placed with intention. Among the Hausa, this was known as Kadra, destiny written long before a person takes their first breath. Humans were never meant to drift through existence. They were created with roles to fulfill, paths to walk, and limits not meant to be crossed. Because life itself was understood as a test of obedience when the path is unclear, patience when the waiting feels endless, and unity, for no one was meant to stand alone. Yet hidden within this belief is a quiet, unsettling truth. If everything has been written, every choice measured, every destiny known, then perhaps the greatest mystery is not how the world began, but whether we are walking the path chosen for us, or the one we were warned never to take. For if destiny is already written, the question is no longer what will happen, but whether it can ever be escaped. This is the Benin Republic account of creation. Before the sun claimed the sky, before the moon learned to follow it, before humans knew their place in the world, there was Mahulisa, a god unlike any other, neither fully male nor fully female, but both at once, a single being holding the power of creation in perfect balance. From this duality, the world was born. Day and night were set in motion. Sun and moon took their place. Strength and compassion were woven into the very fabric of existence. To the faun, creation was not chaos. It was harmony. Every star, every river, every human heart was meant to walk the delicate line between opposites. Humans were given a sacred task: to maintain the balance that birthed the world. Not to dominate, not to conquer, but to live in rhythm with life itself. For when one force overpowers the other, even the cosmos trembles, and the harmony that holds everything together begins to unravel. For the faun believed, the fate of the universe rests not in the hands of gods, but in the hearts of humans who dare to tip the scales. Ghana account of creation. Long before crowns were forged, before kingdoms rose from the forest, before gold became a symbol men would chase, the heavens opened, and from beyond the clouds came Niam, the sky god, radiant, sovereign, a presence too vast to ignore and too powerful to question. Niam did not arrive empty-handed. He came with rain to awaken the earth, wisdom to guide those who would walk upon it, an authority to shape the destiny of nations yet unborn. Where his blessing touched the land, life answered. To the Ashanti, gold was never merely treasure. It was a reflection, a fragment of divine light, a reminder that the heavens were never as distant as they seemed. Humanity, they believed, was created for a remarkable purpose: to mirror heaven here on earth, not through perfection, but through responsibility. Among the Ashanti, leadership was never meant to elevate one above many. It was a sacred burden. Power was not ownership. It was stewardship. To lead was to protect, to judge fairly, to carry the weight of the people without letting it break the world beneath you. Because creation itself demanded something in return: justice. For when fairness disappears, when power forgets its purpose, it is not only societies that begin to crumble. Even the blessings of the sky can grow distant. For the Ashanti believed, the higher you rise in power, the closer you stand to divine judgment. This is the Mali account of creation. Before light touched the darkness, before the first star dared to burn, before time itself learned how to move, there was silence. A silence so complete, it felt endless. And within that silence existed Oma, the Creator, watcher of what was and what had not yet begun. Then, the stillness broke. Not with an explosion, not with fire, but with sound. Oma spoke, and the universe listened. The first vibration rippled through the void, becoming rhythm. The rhythm became motion. The motion scattered sparks across the darkness. Those sparks became the stars. And from the stars, life unfolded. To the Dogon, humanity was never separate from the cosmos. We were shaped from the same patterns, moved by the same hidden forces, bound to the same celestial rhythm. But this understanding carried a warning. Because knowledge, in the Dogon tradition, was never ordinary. It was sacred, powerful, and dangerous in the wrong hands. For creation itself was not just spiritual. It was precise, mathematical, almost impossibly scientific for a world so ancient. As if the universe were written in a language only a few were meant to understand. And perhaps the most unsettling thought of all: what if the cosmos is not silent? What if, even now, it is still speaking? And if you listen closely enough, you might realize the universe has been talking since the beginning of time. The question is, who was it trying to reach? This is the Bamileke tribe in Cameroon account of creation. Before cities rose from the hills, before markets hummed with life, before a single hand could act alone, the world was waiting. And creation itself had a law. Nothing survives in isolation. Nothing thrives without connection. Among the Bamileke, the universe was not shaped by the individual. It was shaped by community, by cooperation, by shared purpose. To act selfishly was more than a personal failing. It was a rebellion against creation itself. A disruption of the balance that held life together. Human survival, they believed, was never solitary. It depended on unity, on the unseen bonds between people, on the shared rhythm of hearts, hands, and voices. For in the Bamileke worldview, every person is a thread, and the world is a tapestry. pull too hard on one strand, and the entire fabric begins to unravel. And those who forget this truth risk unraveling not only their lives, but the world itself. This is the Cameroonians and Central Africa account of creation. Long before villages rose from the forest, before rivers carried names, before the first drumbeat echoed across the land, the world waited. And then, from the earth itself, or sometimes from the sky, the first ancestor appeared. The Creator had shaped humans. But unlike other beings, this ancestor was special. The link between the divine and the living. When the Creator withdrew, the world was not left alone. The first ancestor remained. A guide, a watcher, a silent guardian. Among the Bantu, the dead were never gone. They lingered in the wind, in the trees, in the laughter of children. They shaped the living as much as the living shaped the land. Creation, they believed, was not a one-time event. It was ongoing, ever-changing, flowing through bloodlines, through families, through the very memory of those who came before. And so life was never truly separate from death. The past was never gone. The ancestors were never silent. Because to the Bantu, creation had no end. It continued through lineage, through memory, through us. And perhaps, if you listen closely enough, you can hear the first ancestor still walking among us. This is the South Africans' account of creation. Before the first dawn painted the sky, before mountains rose or rivers ran, there were only the reeds, silent, swaying, waiting. From these reeds emerged Nkulunkulu, the first human. And with him, the world began to stir. But humans were not alone. Animals shared the same birth. Every creature, no matter how small, had a place, a purpose, a story intertwined with ours. Among the Zulu, life was never linear. It flowed in cycles: birth, death, return. The ancestors never truly left. They walked beside the living, whispered in the wind, and guided the unseen paths of destiny. Creation was not an event that happened once. It was a living, breathing rhythm. A story written in reeds, footsteps, and the pulse of the earth itself. And if you listen carefully, the reeds may still murmur the beginning of all things. For the first humans never truly left.